Hey guys, welcome back. So today we are working on lab number 29 called Human Characteristics. Here's what the lab looks like, so go ahead and find it. Okay, so it's called Human Characteristics. We're in the middle this is the first lab in the genetics unit. Okay, so first we'll read through the lab, I'll explain how to do it, and then you can go ahead and complete it. Okay, so let me get rid of me here. Okay, so this is lab number 29 called Human Characteristics. The purpose of today's lab is to determine the connection between the genetic makeup of an organism and the physical characteristics of that same organism. So how do the genes a person receives affects the physical characteristics of that individual? So let's just read a little bit of research first. Chromosomes work in pairs. The members of each chromosome pair are called homologous chromosomes. These two chromosomes are approximately the same length and the same shape, while also carrying similar genetic traits. Each chromosome of a homologous pair comes from a different parent. Humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes, but only 22 of these pairs are truly homologous. They are called autosomes. The final pair is the sex chromosomes. If the individual is female, the pair is homologous XX, but if the individual is a male, the final pair is not homologous, so it's XY. Remember, homologous means the same. So if X and Y are different, obviously they can't be homologous. Genes are the genetic instructions offspring receive from their parents. The genetic makeup of an organism is called the genotype. They're represented by letters. The capital letters represent the dominant gene, and the lowercase letter represents the recessive gene. The phenotype, on the other hand, is the physical expression of the gene or the trait that you actually see. A person only needs one dominant gene to have the dominant trait expressed, but must receive both recessive genes in order to show the recessive trait. The reason for this is the dominant gene is the stronger gene and is always expressed. The recessive gene is the weaker gene and is covered or masked by the presence of the dominant gene. Therefore, you must always have two recessive genes present in order to have the recessive trait expressed. In this lab activity, we'll be using the diagrams of the homologous chromosomes below to determine the physical characteristics of each individual. Okay, so first, some vocabulary. Homologous chromosomes are the members of each chromosome pair. They're the same also. Genetic instruction. Genes are genetic instructions you receive from each parent. The genotype is the genetic makeup of the organism, while the phenotype is the physical expression of the gene. So you can pause it here if you need to take a minute to write down the vocabulary. Okay, here's the allele key. So if you look at these alleles, the first one on the left comes from the father, the one on the right comes from the mother, and the characteristics on the right just explain what's happening. So if you look at these letters, if it's a capital letter F, then the kid will have freckles. If there's a capital F present. If there's two lowercase f's, then the kid does not have freckled skin. Okay, so the characteristics, just explaining what each of those genes means. So the first person we're going to look at is Dave. So from Dave's father, he inherited a lowercase f, and from the mother, he inherited a capital F. When you write out the genotype, you frequently write the capital letter first. So it would look like this: capital F, lowercase f. The capital came from the mom, the lowercase came from the dad, but you usually typically write the capital first. So what is the phenotype of this kid? What type of skin will he have, freckled or unfreckled? Since there's one capital, you need at least one, he will end up having freckled skin. Okay, the next trait is the T's. So two lowercase t's, so it obviously only inherits two lowercase t's. Both parents contributed the lowercases. I need to go back to the chart from the slide before to see what that means. So capital T means you can taste this if there's a chemical test. Lowercase t means you cannot taste the chemical test. So the chemical test is something that we would do. We used to do it in class. I don't have them anymore. It's a little piece of paper. Some kids can actually taste absolutely nothing, and some taste a specific chemical. So that's something with your taste buds. So in this case, Dave inherited two lowercase t's, so he can't taste on the chemical test. The next trait is the B's. So I have to go back again to this chart. B is the color hair. Capital B is for brown hair. Lowercase b is for blonde hair. So he got capital B from the mom, lowercase b from the dad. The capital is always written first. So this kid is showing brown hair. because there's one capital there. The next one is the H's. They're both lowercase h's for both parents. I have to go back to the chart to see what that means. The H's are talking about the presence of a genetic disease. There is no genetic disease present. So that would be no genetic disease for the phenotype. The next couple are the Rh factors. They both have it, so it's positive, which means that both of them have Rh blood factor. They inherited from both parents. The next trait is the M's, which is both lowercase. I need to go back to that chart to see what that means. The M's are talking about the skin color. So if there's lowercase, they have lighter skin color, so less skin tone. If there's capital, it'll be darker skin tone. So this one was lower cases, less skin color. And lastly is a last trait, which is about color blindness. So if the person has lowercase c's, they're colorblind. Capital C's, they have color vision. So let's see what Dave got. He got both capital C's from the mom and the dad. So he has color vision. Okay, so here's the data for Dave, individual number 1. The genotypes are the letters, the actual genetics. The phenotype is what you see, the physical traits. So genotypes, G for genetic, phenotype, P for physical trait. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and do the same for Juanita and Phil. And then there's questions. So for example, which parent gave Dave the dominant trait for freckles? You have to go back to Dave, which we just did. Which parent gave him that dominant trait? Here's the capital F that came from the mother. So you would just go down here and write it came from his mom. How many characteristics does Dave show the recessive trait for? I go back to Dave. Recessive has to be both lower cases. So recessive trait 1, 2, 3. 3 of them he got that were the recessive trait. Identify each of these traits. So go back. The traits are he can't taste, he has no genetic disease, and he has light skin tone. What color hair does Juanita have? This question is about Juanita. And then there'll be questions here about Phil. Finally, there'll be some conclusion questions, difference between genotype and phenotype, difference between a dominant recessive trait, how do you get characteristics from both parents, and talking about siblings. So that's it. You're going to go ahead and complete the table for Juanita and Phil and answer the analysis questions and the conclusion questions. And that is it. We conclude lab number 29. And that's it. Until next time, we'll see you at the next lab video.